introductions? All right, I think everyone knows everyone here, so I will just go ahead and read off the names that I see. I'm Dana Trey with SCTA. We also have Drew Nichols with SCTA, Brian Albee, Sonoma County Transit, David Davenport, Golden Gate Transit, David Ripperda, SCTA, Emily Betts, SMART, Jacob Brown, Golden Gate Transit, James Cameron, SCTA, Maria RC, Sonoma County Transit, Rachel Eade, Santa Rosa City Bus, Robert Betts, Marin Transit, Ross Clendenden, SCTA, and Steve Bertelbaugh with the Transportation Land Use Coalition. Next on the agenda is a vote to continue this meeting via Zoom. We have not had a board meeting yet this year. That's happening next week. So normally our board adopts a declaration to meet via Zoom. We did this actually in January at this Transit DAC meeting as well. So I will look for an action on this item.
So moved.
Thank you. I guess that was the recommendation and the action, right? To continue this meeting via Zoom.
That's right.
Thank you.
I'm not exactly sure what you needed, but I think we should continue this meeting via Zoom. Do we need to vote?
Any oppositions? All right, hearing none, I think that is approved and we will continue the meeting. Right, the next item on the agenda is public comment. Is there any public comment on items that are not on the agenda? Steve's camera's off, so I assume no public comment. Right, let's move on to approval of the meeting notes from January 12th. Does anybody have any comments or corrections on the notes? All right, hearing none, can we get a motion on approval of the meeting notes?
Move to approve.
Thanks, Jacob. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Stephen. All right, that takes us to regional funding updates. And first item on the agenda is the coordinated claim update. We did include a preliminary draft of the TDA coordinated claim in the agenda packet. This version has not been updated yet with the carryover funds from last year through TDA that just came out in the draft fund estimate that MTC put out. So we will be revising the prior year funding in the TDA claim, as well as making some revisions for a Measure M exchange with Sonoma County Transit. So are there any questions first off on this draft preliminary TDA estimate or claim?
Dana, I just have a comment, and I'm a little bit behind, but I need to reach out to Mona. So Jacob and David, I usually work with Mona just to confirm the amount for the Golden Gate contribution to the transit mall operating costs, and as well as Brian, just, you know, our usual methodology kind of went out the window with COVID, and I believe that's still kind of the case. So I'll send an email this week just to kind of make sure we nail that figure down for the next draft.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I think that was probably copied over. What's in there is probably copied over from last year's coordinated claim. So we can certainly make that update. Just for the overall process, we will bring the full coordinated claim with the TDA, STA, and Measure M funds to the Transit TAC next month, as well as the Transit Paratransit Coordinating Committee. And then in April, we will bring it to the SCTA board. So this is just a preliminary review of the draft TDA estimate, or sorry, TDA claim. But we don't need a vote on it right now. Brian, if you didn't hear Rachel's comment just a minute ago, she just mentioned that she needs to speak with Golden Gate Transit about the contract for the transit mall.
Transit mall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Brian, you and I
Yeah.
haven't really explicitly discussed that either. So I'll chat with you as well, and we'll just get those numbers
Right.
firmed up.
Okay. And then before next month, we'll have an STA claim out for consideration, I guess at our next meeting, but it'll come out before then.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and send it out to the operators included in that, a draft out
Yeah.
ahead of the next Transit TAC meeting for review. So yeah, the draft fund estimate is actually going to the MTC's Programming and Allocations Committee meeting, which is right now. So we do have that draft, and assuming that gets adopted, those figures will be included in the next draft of both claims.
Very healthy increase this year.
Yes, it's good news.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any other comments or questions on the coordinated claim? Okay, well then let's move on. The next item on the agenda, item 5.2, is the Measure M local bus transit distribution formula for fiscal year 22-23. That information went to the TAC committee last month and is posted on our website. So there is a link in the agenda to that. Are there any questions right now on the Measure M local bus transit distribution?
We show that on the coordinated claim in the summary page. So it's just consistent with the projection that Shauna made.
Yes, thank you. All right, then. Next on the agenda is the Transportation Fund for Clean Air call for projects that just went out yesterday and is included in the agenda packet, or was included on the agenda packet online. So applications are due March 21st. We have made some slight changes just to the process. We are asking for, generally we ask for applications initially from the transit operators that have a guaranteed portion in the framework here. And then applications for the competitive portion from the small jurisdictions that don't run transit that are within the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. This year, we're actually asking for all applications at once for the competitive portion, just to streamline the process. There generally isn't a whole lot of competition, so we're just kind of trying to get applications, open it up to, Santa Rosa, the county, and Petaluma if they want to apply for that competitive funding at the same time. We will consider possibly earmarking funds for the next year of funding if there are competitive eligible projects that would work for. So we're generally just trying to streamline this and get more interest in applying for the funding for that piece of the funding. Other updates that are happening this year are that the air district's guidance has, and their policies, they've increased the cost effectiveness for infrastructure improvements for trip reduction. This category used to be called smart growth, but it was a little bit confusing, that term. So they've made it more explicit, calling it infrastructure improvements for trip reduction. And then they've also renamed the shuttle feeder bus category to first and last mile connections to clarify that it's not only for shuttles or buses. And there's also a revised project information form. Their district is asking for a lot more information and more explicit information in the project information form. A lot of this information are things that should be in the notes and assumptions tab on the cost effectiveness form, but aren't always included in there. So they've really just asked for more explanation. They're also asking for kind of explanation if you're using assumptions that differ from the guidance or from the default assumptions that are provided for the category of project you're applying for. So as I mentioned, applications are due on March 21st. We'll bring this to this committee and the TAC in April, and then to the SETA board in May. And then projects funding is usually, you could start incurring expenses when the contracts are executed, which is usually late summer, early fall. So with that, I will open it up for questions.
So if there are no additional projects submitted for the competitive, then the transit operators can add them to our projects as we have in the
Yeah,
past.
we've done that in the past. We definitely want to program all of the funding. And so if there are no projects or there's leftover funding in the competitive pot, and we can increase the amount of funding for the projects that have been submitted, then without exceeding the cost effectiveness, then we will do that.
Right. Great.
Yeah. And I'll just put out there that SETA does plan to apply for some of the competitive portion to continue our Ride Amigos program, which is the first year of it was funded through the project for the Highway 37 project. So it's a ride matching incentive program with the 4 counties in the North Bay. We haven't launched that program yet, but we got funding for the first year of the subscription for Ride Amigos through that, and that will carry us through November this year. And so we would be applying for funding through this to extend that and also include incentives for trip rides, trip matching, and logging trips of all modes for the entire county. So a very loud machine out my window. Sorry about that noise. So are there any other questions on the TFCA program? All right, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions going through applications. I'd be happy to work with you on it. The next item on the agenda is the MTC Public Transit Transformation Action Plan and Network Management. This is a standing item, and I will open it up to anyone who has anything they would like to bring up regarding the progressive implementation of this transformation action plan. All right, so it sounds like nothing this month on that. Let's move on to transit
Sorry.
operations. Oh, go ahead.
Probably not directly related to the MTC plan, but I would be curious to get an update on kind of Sonoma County coordination efforts. I think the MTC did release an RFP for some branding work and specifically called out Sonoma County as the pilot project in that work. So, and I apologize if it's later on the agenda, but I'd be curious to get an update on that effort.
Yeah, I'm happy to provide an update. So, sorry, this is very loud. Let me put my earbuds in because there's somebody must be chopping outside my window. So, as you know, MTC committed some funding through the Blue Ribbon effort for the integration work that we're working on with the 3 local bus operators. And so that's sort of a phase 2 of the planning efforts. We will essentially be receiving that funding at the start of the next fiscal year. And we are working right now on more detailed scope of work for that funding, and as well as hiring a project manager to lead the effort. So we have been making progress on that. The 3 local operators have also been making progress on some of the more preliminary work, which we're calling phase 1, which includes discussions of fare harmonization. They've been working on the paratransit single one-seat ride program, and a number of other efforts, which if anybody has things they want to bring up specifically, they can do that. So really that phase 2, we are looking at launching in full effect by by July, and possibly sooner than that. But we are moving forward with the detailed planning and hiring of a project manager to manage that effort.
Are you hiring a consultant for that? Is that what you mean?
So we are hoping to do a kind of a temporary position under SCTA.
Mm-hmm.
We may not find that person to do that, and it may end up being a consultant, either an independent consultant or a consultant with a firm that may take on some of the other contract elements that are in the scope of work. So there are a number of specific tasks that could be taken on by consultants, and the project manager, a lot of their role
would be to manage those contracts. So it is something that, could end up being done entirely by a consultant. But yeah, I think our strategy, I think, is to first try to hire a part-time temporary person under SCTA. So Robert, did that help answer your questions?
Yeah, I was looking for the distribution between what MTC will be leading through their efforts and then what you're going to be taking on locally. as part of it.
Yeah, so I guess to just kind of add to what I said, this phase 2 work is a lot of the kind of preparations for the unified branding and mapping and wayfinding project. So really making sure that the systems planning is lined up between the 3 operators, that there's better, fair coordination and customer service backend work is more streamlined, developing a single website for all 3 operators. And then when the branding effort starts, the backend will be ready for that and will make sense to kind of have that unified branding and move that forward. So it's sort of the preliminary work to the mapping and wayfinding effort that MTC is leading.
Thanks.
Sure. All right. Anything else on the MTC action plan? Okay, well, let's move on to operator updates. Santa Rosa City Bus, would you like to start us off?
Sure. And, our main focus recently has been sort of recovering from our Omicron disaster. So we're still operating at a more robust Saturday plus service level, but still reduced from where we were before January. We are planning to step up service again on the 21st of this month. And then we'll have, a more full restoration, essentially nearly to where we were before Omicron in March, hope as early in March as possible. So we're getting there, but it's been a rough road over the past few weeks. We do have a couple of drivers in training and another good group in background. So we have had some better success recently with driver recruitment. So it's just, as we all know, it takes time from when you get people in the door to when they can actually be out on their own on a bus. So we feel like we're moving towards a better place, but that's really been the main focus, is dealing with sort of a weekly service change as we, sort of rebuild from that staffing impact. Other than that, the only thing I just wanted to mention is, and we talked about this a little bit in one of our coordination meetings with Sonoma County Transit, but we're trying to do everything we can just to keep morale up. And with that in mind, looking to, do our usual Transit Driver Appreciation Day celebration coming up in March. And so just wanted to put it out there. If any agencies are wanting to collaborate or do something kind of jointly, we'd be really interested in that. So I'm just going to put out that plug and we can follow up later. Thanks.
Thanks, Rachel. On that last point, do you have something in mind already? Is there something like an email or like a sketch of what you're thinking of doing?
Yeah, well, we're sort of limited right now from what we typically do because of COVID, but we usually do a social media campaign that week and push out through our various public information channels, just information about Appreciation Day and, give your driver a wave or a thumbs up kind of stuff. We usually do an event as well on the actual day, and we'll probably do something. It's just going to be somewhat scaled back. Might be tacos in the parking lot, though. We might be able to pull that off as long as we don't eat food anywhere near each other or indoors. So yeah, I can send you what we've done in the past. It's a pretty light touch, but it's appreciated by our staff for sure.
Yeah, that'd be great. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Rachel. Robert, would you like give an update on Marin Transit?
Sure. I guess in terms of ridership, actually, the last 3 weeks, we've seen kind of a resurgence in ridership. We were plateauing right around 70%.
Robert, sorry to interrupt, but your audio is kind of cutting in and out for me.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll turn my camera off, see if that helps the audio.
Maybe it's the mic, if you hold the mic closer or something.
Yeah, it sounds like the mic is further away and then it comes close and then it's further away again.
Okay. All right, let's try this. I was saying that our ridership has seen somewhat of a resurgence, at least on the fixed route side, the last 3 weeks. November, December, January, we were right around that 70% of pre-COVID levels, but we've seen things jump up in the last 3 weeks, which is a good sign. I think it's a combination of coming out of the holiday season and Omicron, but some positive trends again on the bus side. Our demand response is still holding around 50%. We're really not seeing a lot of growth in our paratransit programs. Otherwise, our big focus over the last month or so has been the transition of our paratransit contract. Starting February 1st, we have a new contractor for the first time ever in Marin County. And so a big lift by all members of the team. In addition to transitioning over those services, we are in the midst of a build out of a new operations and maintenance facility for that contract. So we actually had to pause construction for a couple of days to let the contractor get in and start operations. But we're back now to that project. We're hoping to wrap up that work here in the next couple of weeks. But it's been a big focus of our team over the last couple of weeks to get that up and in operation. Overall, it was a very smooth, I would say, a very smooth transition. And for those of you who aren't familiar with our contract, we moved from a local nonprofit whistle stop Vivalon to Transdev, who at least some of you are probably familiar with it at some level, Brian being very familiar with Transdev. But and that is a partnership that service is provided in partnership with the Bridge District. So it is the contract that provides both the local and the regional paratransit services in and out of Marin County. Otherwise, we took possession of our 4 new all-electric Gillig buses, 40-foot buses. Unfortunately, our electrification project up at our facility, we are waiting for a couple components which have been back ordered. So we thought we would have those vehicles in service in March, and it's looking more like July, August before we'll actually get to put those into revenue service. We have invested in a shop charger to give us the ability to do training and to test out the vehicles, but in terms of being able to put them into revenue service, we're a little bit delayed on that project. I think those are our highlights. Oh, we have one more month of our Fare Free program for our senior ADA riders. That'll go through the end of March, and we'll be taking an item in March to determine if we extend and continue that program.
Robert, are those your first electric buses or electric Gilligs specifically?
They're our first electric Gillig buses. We do have 2 electric BYD buses that we've been running since 2018, but these are our first Gilligs, and it's pretty remarkable how consistent they are with the other Gillig buses we own in the fleet. You step on board that vehicle and everything is exactly the same. It's just what's powering the vehicle that differs. So our maintenance team is excited about having some fleet consistency and not introducing a new vehicle into the mix. But again, we don't have any revenue service experience with those vehicles yet. So.
Robert, could I ask, is there going to be any announcements or materials? We'd love to share the word on that. That's a great great thing to promote. And just wanted to check the timing. If we want to wait till they go into service, or when you'd prefer that to happen.
Yeah, I think closer to revenue service would
Okay.
Probably when we start to really make a push. Otherwise, they're just sitting alongside the freeway. If you're driving north or south
Right.
on Highway 101 through Novato, you can see them. The chargers are installed.
Got it.
It's just the utility components we're waiting on right now. But yeah, probably closer to the summer, we'll start making a little bit more of a press release on it.
Okay, great.
Robert, is your senior ADA fare free program, was that like a temporary kind of promotional
Yeah.
pilot, or?
Yeah, our board, short of going fare free last year, I think like many of our agencies, we're looking at ways to help our riders during the pandemic. And our board, they approved 3 pilot programs that offered some assistance for our probably most vulnerable riders. So we approved a 6-month fare-free pilot for our senior ADA riders on the fixed route service. That started last October and goes through March. We approved a kind of a companion program to our youth pass program. So, for 25 years, we've had a free transit pass program for students that are on the free and reduced lunch program. And what we did is we extended that to family members. So we actually distributed 3 monthly passes to all of those students that qualify for the free youth pass program to just kind of extend transit assistance to those families. Those passes were just distributed back in December, and we'll be tracking the usage on those monthly passes to see if they get used and where they get used. And then the third pilot program was for a free summer pass for all of our youth riders. So starting second week in June through the second week in August, we'll be offering free fixed route for anyone 18 and under on our fixed route program.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Emily, would you like to give an update on SMART next?
Sure. So ridership definitely took a turn down in January. I'm sure most of you saw that with offices being closed in some schools. And it looks like things are recovering now as we move into February, the first week and a half. Looks like we're returning to November numbers. We've had a lot of staffing turnover in operations lately. I think there's still sort of some delayed COVID effects as people realize their commute isn't quite worth it. And so we've had some vacancies, and I think we had like 10 operators out one day last week, which is about half of our the conductors, the conductor engineers, about half of our staff. So, as we consider full restoration of service and changing the schedule, as you all know, it's just hard. It's hard to do that when we're barely making service as it is. So still working on filling those positions. We're now recruiting for fiscal manager, and I think the title is director of maintenance. So that's an issue here. The other thing I wanted to mention is that it looks like it sounds that the ferries are going to be changing their Larkspur weekend schedule on April 4th, reducing service. And I'm not sure what the cause is there, if it's staffing or ridership, but we may end up changing our service as well, because a lot of the connections have been changed between SMART and the ferry. So that's April 4th. And I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that as they finalize their schedule. That's all I have.
Thank you. Well, Golden Gate, would you like to go next?
Sure. Jacob, I can go ahead and start if that works for you. So let's see, over here, starting on January 31st, we began operating midday and weekend service on the Tiburon Ferry. Just as a recap, back in December, we started service to Angel Island. So there's been some changes on the ferry side of things for us. On the bus side of our operations, the peak additional service on Route 101 that we had started back in, I want to say the fall. I mentioned that as of December 20th, we had discontinued those trips due to staffing issues. So Route 101 is operating just hourly, all day, every day. And that schedule change continues to stay in effect. And it will continue through our March sign up at a minimum. Also starting in March, we will be temporarily suspending weekend service on Route 150. That doesn't go to Sonoma County, but you may have some questions maybe from your riders or something that come up. So the Route 150 runs from Novato to San Francisco. Again, just ongoing staffing issues. Can't get anybody to drive a bus these days, it seems like. The nice thing is Marin Transit provides service on Route 71 on the Marin County portion of that route, very closely aligned time-wise. So as part of that change in March, there'll be some minor schedule changes so that the Route 71 can fill in for the missing Route 150. Other than that, ridership continues to be flat. This past week actually is the first uptick we've seen in ridership since over the holidays. So that's a good sign. Hopefully that trend continues so we can get sort of back into something resembling normal. On the, let's see, anything else on bus? Oh yeah, for the March service change, also there is an alignment change in Petaluma. So we'll no longer be operating to 4th and C in downtown Petaluma. So the 101 and 172 will both kind of serve the Copeland Street area, and they'll run down Petaluma Boulevard South still, but they'll be bypassing 4th and C. We've been running primarily 45-foot buses on those two routes, and there's just a long series of tight turns in the downtown area that are just not practical for us to serve. So that change will finally pull the trigger on that one. Jacob, I don't know if you have anything else related to funding or capital projects or anything that you might want to mention.
No, I don't think I have anything today.
And I seem to be having connection issues, so I'm sorry if I get disconnected.
We can still see you, but your video is frozen. I mean,
Okay.
sorry, we can still hear you.
Okay, you can hear me good because my video is frozen as well. So I don't know if there's any questions, but that's it for us.
All right, thanks, David. Sonoma County Transit, would you like to give an update next?
Good morning. We've got some schedule changes effective on March 13th. We're adding some service to the Route 20, to the route, possibly to the Route 60, making some changes to the Route 26 and also 32 over in Sonoma Valley. We received several new shelters which will go up, replace some of our old shelters over the course of the next year. We just received 10 new pilot automated information signs that'll go up various places across the county in the next few months, hopefully. Let's see, we got 6 BYD buses on order. 3 will be here by July, we hope, and the other 3 will be here January, February of next year. And we're working on a new charging facility here at the transit yard to accommodate the new buses. Hopefully that will be constructed by and up and running by the end of the year.
Ryan, I think you cut out. Can't hear you now.
Oh, well, I guess where did I leave off?
I don't remember.
You just mentioned the work on the charging infrastructure at your
Oh, yeah,
Right.
okay.
facility.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. That was
Great.
it.
You want to mention the
Thanks.
Driver Appreciation Day effort that we're embarking on, Brian or Maria?
Sure, and Maria can handle that.
Yeah, so we're going to elicit passengers to give compliments to drivers. So we have a dedicated page set up on our website where passengers will be able to submit what's their favorite driver. And so there'll be car cards installed coming up pretty soon. And then our plan is to take those and either kind of put them up on Transit Driver Appreciation Day or create a slideshow of some kind in the break room so that the drivers can hear all the positive things.
And that all starts on March 1st, right?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Jared, would you like to give an update on Petaluma Transit?
Yeah, Becky, good morning, everyone. So similar ridership fluctuation trends as everyone here has kind of outlined with that going up and down. Overall, it's doing pretty well with a lot of the ridership from the schools coming back. We've had a few trips missed here and there on the trippers where we've had to run less buses due to staff shortages recently. We're also putting a lot of time and effort into recruiting drivers right now. So hopefully we're able to get more online fairly soon. A couple things were recently approved by council, one of which is purchasing bus shelters and benches for 2 of our major stops at Casa Grande High School and Kenilworth Junior High School. And so we're ordering those now with about a 2-month lead time. And then our Veterans Fair program, which is free fares for veterans and active duty military, starts on President's Day, February 21st. So that's good news. We're still finalizing our messaging and signage for that. So as we have that ready to go, I think we'll reach out to many of you to hopefully help spread the word through your communication channels as well, if you wouldn't mind. We completed the first phase of our triennial review, the initial documentation gathering and submission to the reviewer on that. So we'll hear back from them in a month or 2 with our visit. Bike share, we met with the vendor to kind of pick up the discussion on those. With the changeover in the project manager, I think a lot of the communications, I got the sense, kind of dropped off. And so to keep that moving forward without any delays, we met with them to kind of review the Petaluma locations again. And we're hoping to see the revised batch of the locations, hopefully the 3rd and final version of those in a week or 2. And then one of the big city projects going on is design work on North McDowell Boulevard, which will happen from Old Red down to not quite as far as Rainier, but just in that general vicinity. And so there's a big public open house on that, talking about the plans for that road. One big piece of that will be repaving the road, which I'm sure is good news for anyone that drives on that and they know the condition of that road. And then other improvements will also be included, if not in the first phase necessarily, in subsequent phases, if there's like a second phase, with a lot more of the bike, pedestrian improvements, transit stop improvements, etc. So that'll be a big major project for us as well. And that's about it.
Thanks, Jared. Did we get everyone? I think so. All right, that brings us to other announcements. Business or comments?
And thanks everybody for getting in your data for the terms of application. Really appreciate you getting that in early. So I'm looking through it all, and if I have any questions, I'll follow up with you. I think just a couple of you, I just need some backup documentation on your fuel and mileage usage. So if you can pass that along, I really appreciate it. And we're working on the letter support template still. We're trying to craft who to address it to because there's been a change in the CALSA secretary now. So we'll get that out to you as soon as we have it. Thank you again.
Great.
Thanks, David. All right, does anybody else have any other announcements or comments? All right then, short meeting. We'll get you all back to whatever else you've been working on. And we will see you next month. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right.